Uh, but before that, a few weeks before, we finally
Mm-hmm.
got a trailer for Fantastic Four: First Steps, and it looks pretty damn
Mm.
good. But Ira, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
did you see it?
Wait, hold on. Let me look at the picture. I'm messing up the bit now. Wait a minute.
The whole bit's been ruined.
Oh, that's not. This is one of my favorite monikers to use. That looks like shit from a butt, unfortunately.
But
Like,
everybody's making
oh,
the here's the thing joke. But like the thing looks great. This is just the people complaining, including you right now, need to pick up a comic book. This is just what he looks like,
it's
and that's kind of the
well,
point.
it's not a
The
complaint.
point is that he's supposed to look bad because, well, first off, I just think it's a fun just character design in general. But the point is that he doesn't like the way that he looks. Like
Yeah, I
he was a
know,
handsome
and
man, and
it,
then he
it
was
I,
turned into a thing. That's kind of the point.
yeah, they're really leaning into it. It's like, wait, I'm stupid. I just got the joke that you made.
I think
Good
it's
bit, good
funnier
bit.
that it took this long.
I'm like, yeah, but yeah, they're leaning into it. I think it's a good design. It definitely like it, but it also like lends to that character
Yeah. If you
idea.
look up
Like, he's supposed to be ugly.
Alex Ross the Thing, he looks just like this. And he looks like he was ripped out of comics. So, I like the way he looks. I get why some people who aren't
Yeah.
used to it, because the reality is we
Mhm.
just don't get a lot of Fantastic Four stuff. So people aren't used to it. But people will get
We
used to
really
this.
don't.
And the reality is this is just what he's supposed to look like. He's supposed to look like that. And
Makes
he
sense.
looks cool to me. Um but the last of the rest of the cast, I mean, also look great, especially in their very
Mhm.
simple and not over designed costumes. The costumes look good, thank God.
Oh, for sure.
I would have been like, what is it? Mr. Fantastic shows up, played by forget his name, but the dude that's married to Emily Blunt. Um, he uh he plays him in Multiverse of Madness, and his costume is ass and it's way over designed. Thank God in this movie they're way more simple. And
Mhm.
there's a shot where Johnny flames on and flies off of a balcony, and there's a
Mhm.
realistic lens flare, like a real human torch just flew by the camera, and the reflection of the light
Ooh.
causes the smudges on the camera lens to be visible for a brief second. And I'm like, that's a level of
Super sick.
detail that was so unnecessary, but so beautiful. Um, I also love the rainbow effect that the Invisible Woman's powers have. That we've seen so
Mhm.
far, which makes a lot of sense because her powers revolve around manipulating light to create force fields and turn
Right.
invisible. So that's really fun. We don't see Reed use his powers though, which I wonder why. Some people say it's because it'll look
Mm.
goofy and they didn't want to turn people off, but like I don't think that's a good enough reason. Like we've seen his powers in live action
Yeah.
before. Like here's the thing, they need to just lean into the fact that yeah, he's gonna look creepy. That's you can't help it. If a realistic
Right.
human person is stretching, it's gonna look weird. In the comics, they lean into it heavy. This man does the weirdest
Mm.
shit every chance he gets. He will stretch his eyeballs out instead of
Oh.
he also like stretches his head and his neck out, and that looks weird sometimes. But sometimes he will just stretch out his eyeballs to get a closer look at something, and it's weird as hell. But that's the type of person he is. He doesn't care that it
Say
looks
that'll
weird
do it.
as long as it works. But yeah, at the very end of the trailer, we see Galactus, and I bet he was putting on a bib and rubbing his hands together, getting ready for a feast, because he saw the Earth and was like, "Oh my God, all this food!" But I'm so excited for these characters to get the shine they deserve once again, because before the
Mhm.
MCU, the four pillars of Marvel were Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Hulk, and the Fantastic Four. It's the reason why when Fox, bought the X-Men, they also took the Fantastic Four because Fantastic Four were a hot item back then. So I did end up reading the very first issue of the Fantastic Four comic out of excitement, and I definitely plan on reading more
Mhm.
in the coming months before the movie releases, which is on July 25th. And yeah, that first comic, I don't really like comics made before like the 80s usually, but sometimes the 70s.
Mhm.
This was good. This was a good comic. I don't really like those old
That's
comics
good.
because the way they're written, doesn't really hit for me most of the time, but this one did, and I was surprised.
Mm.
I was happy. I was
Ooh.
like, oh, a good old comic. You love to see it. Um,
Yeah.
so for a second, I was gonna just go from number one to number two, but what Marvel does, which is cool on their app, is that if you want to just get the big moments, you.
Hmm.
So I went to like because after the trailer came out, they just put on their like on the homepage. It just says like get to know the Fantastic Four. I clicked it, and then I went through all the different options of the number ones I could start with, and I went, you know what, I'm gonna start from the very beginning. So I read it, and then
Hmm.
I finished the chapter, swiped to go to the next chapter, and then it gave me two options. I could either go to the second chapter or I could jump straight to the first arc that Galactus appears. And I was like, I'm going to do that because I don't feel like reading
Ooh.
everything leading up to that. So they like give you like a way to
Right.
just like fast pass your way through all of the big moments in a way that makes sense and where you won't be confused, which is really cool. But like,
Cool.
yeah, what were your thoughts on the trailer? And are you interested? Excited? What's your history with Fantastic Four?
I'm just I Yeah, I'm just excited. I've always been like idly fond of the Fantastic Four. I think they're very neat in concept, and like I like. I don't know if this is divisive or not, but I like the first Fantastic
Oh,
Four movie
I
that
like the
came out
first
like
one.
in the. Yeah, I really liked it, and it's good to see them like back in a movie because like I said, I'm not really into the rest of the MCU, but like the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, that's all you'll get out of me. So I'll probably go see this in theaters. Maybe we'll see, but and all to be all, I'm excited. It looked really, really good. And I have high hopes, and I hope that those high hopes are like justified when
Yeah,
it actually comes out. Because
yeah,
trailers can be whatever,
yeah,
but
for sure. But like,
mhm.
what I like about this is that this takes place in a separate universe than the main MCU. And that's why
Mhm.
everything looks so different. It's this like retro futuristic New York City. And here's my hope. So I realized with they're going to start filming the next Avengers movie like next year, which is way sooner than I thought, and it'll be coming out relatively soon. So it's like they're about to reboot. They're about to just try and reset everything since they messed up so bad with this phase. Um, my
I sure
hope
hope so.
is that the entire MCU turns into the retro futuristic aesthetic of Fantastic Four. That would be
Yeah,
dope
that
as
would be
hell
nice.
because a lot of these characters were created in the 60s. Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the
Right.
Hulk, the X-Men, all of these characters, Ant-Man, all of those. The only exception is a very small amount of characters like Captain America, Namor, and like some other characters and Bucky were like created in the 40s during World War II. But most of them were created in the 60s. So having this aesthetic that is like this 60s aesthetic, but it technically maybe takes place in like the modern day or maybe like decades ago, but not necessarily in the 60s would be cool. Just having it be out of time and
That
look
would
so
be neat.
interesting and have this unique visual style. And then since the world is so wacky and different and this kind of Jetsons retro futuristic aesthetic, that would also make the weirdness of these characters in their more comic accurate costumes less weird. You could have Hawkeye
Right.
and his goofy ass mask and it not be that weird because everything's goofy. I love Hawkeye's costume and I want to see Hawkeye in live action with his goofy ass costume.
Real, real.
Like that, you could be a lot more comic accurate when everything's weird.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.